Okay, so we are back with the painting, and I was just going to see if I could zoom in on a few little bits in case you couldn't quite see them, because I know certain areas where the light hits them, well, not where the light, yeah, where the light hits the wet paint might be a little bit difficult to see. So when I said I was getting rid of a few bits of paint and scraping so you could see the red through, I'm just going to briefly zoom in so you can see it along the top of the boats, and those were the little bits that I was removing on the pier and the steps and that. So just put that back to size where you can see it. So to be fair, I could leave it like this, which is kind of what I would do with a plein air, because plein air painting I would kind of do a la prima all in one go. I just wanted to do a little bit more work on this, put a few highlights in. I'm not going to do a massive amount more, so this can be quite quick. The process itself doesn't have to be too labour intensive. What I'm going to do is have a go at popping this line here. Is the reflection from the sun, which is kind of, like I said, I'll give you another view of the reference photo a second. Hopefully you can see it. There we are. So this bit, oops, up here, the sun and that reflection down is, you know, the nice bit, the bit that drew me to it originally. And the sea sparkle, I love the sea sparkle, I find that quite fascinating. So I want to put that in, and I will do particularly some work there because I want this to be a major sort of focal point, and we'll do a little bit of stuff up here because I want people's eye to be able to move around a little bit. So this will be a focal point. We'll put some stuff up here to be a focal point, and we'll do a little bit of stuff there. So the viewer's eye, oops, moves around the picture a little bit. So let's do a little bit of that. Oops. There was a dog right under my feet then that just tried to take me out. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We're going to have a little bit of yellow ochre. And the little bit of yellow ochre I'm going to mix with, I don't want to introduce a different tone of yellow, and I've mixed some titanium white with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to test this out here either side and see if that's, sorry if I put my head under the camera, I'm trying not to, that is the kind of guideline to my light source that's going to come down. There we are. I'm just taking it in from the outside. So we've got the yellow ochre on the outside, but we've also got some of this dancing in, and where obviously, maybe not obviously, I don't want a colour to appear just once on my painting. General rule of thumb is it always appears 3 times. That way it makes a nice balance to the picture. Okay, put some of those just across there so it gives it a nice little bandwidth of interest. Take that out there as well. Now there's a little bit of lighter colour on the top of this boat. Bearing in mind this is where my darker values are over this side, because this is not hugely in the main sunshine. A little bit of light catches the edge of these boats here, but it's very little. So what I'm doing here is I'm just putting a little bit of token lightness, but it's only this lightness. It's not white as there's a little buoy down there floating. I'm going to put that in there. I'm always looking to see, is there anything that needs to be put in on that colour elsewhere in the painting. So along here, from where I'm standing, I can see a little bit of the walkway up there that is quite light. So I'm just going to pop that in. That's it. We keep it that simple. A few little bits up here. Like I said, it doesn't really matter what these items are. So on that note, looking at these boats here, I'm going to put some of this value across the top of those ribs. And I do mean ribs as in the boats, not in body parts. And there's a light bit that goes across the top of that seat there. This just now stops it just being a blob. It's now becoming a little bit of a boat, because these marks helps our brain identify the shape. And there's some nice light bits on the back of that one. Just a little thin bit that goes across there and on there. There we go. And like I said, I don't ever want to overdo this, but there's always some quite nice you can use these highlight colours to make nice directional lines. So on the painting there's some lovely, and it just makes it a little bit more subtle and not so brassy as using white. Okay. So I quite like that tone, so I'm going to use that tone on the outside of my actual sunlight, and my sunlight's going to be quite low, because this is as a December reference photo. So winter sun, low in the sky. That's why you get blinded when you're driving into it in your car or bike or whatever you're travelling on. Okay, so this now I'm going to dry brush the edges of it, and I just don't want it to be too hard, shall we say. So I'm adding some water to this now, and I'm going right out here like with it, okay, and this is now going to sink down here, because I want this to all kind of blend into what I've got here already. So once acrylic dries, is obviously waterproof, so you need to watch what you're doing here. I'm going to add a little bit more white to this yellow mix which I've already got, and I'm going to slowly bring in some sea sparkle down here. Okay, so I'm working from the bottom up. The reason I'm working from the bottom up and not going straight into the sun itself is because I'm testing the colour that I've got. Okay, and I've put in boats there, so I'll deal with those afterwards. Okay, so the light can then eat into the shapes of the boats, and down here we've got this beautiful sparkle, and that's occurring in, it's no longer like, it's literally almost dots it's joined up on some bits. I'm going to use the same. So I'm still yet, this is not white, okay? And when it goes up here, it kind of blends more into a trail, shall we say, rather than dots. Then I'm going to actually whack it up there for my sun. So I'm not going to make my sun absolutely round. I'm making my sun a bit oval. And I don't want it to have a really hard edge to it, because you know, this isn't sort of painting like a kindergarten sun. This is, I want it to look more thoughtful. I want the whole thing to look more thoughtful. I'm keeping with this big brush at the moment because I don't know if you can see, probably can't see from that distance. I will show a finished and a couple of close-ups at the end. It's really hard to show this colour, as it were, on from this distance on wet paint. Okay, so I would like to do a few layers of my sun, and then I'm going to dip my brush straight into the white, and at the core of it I want this to be nice and thick. Okay, so I want that paint to be thick because I want it to be really saturated. And the very centre line of my sun glow, as it were, I want that to be really thick paint because that's what I wanted to capture. And I'm going to almost stipple it on. I think that's the best word of use, best terminology for it. So it's literally pure pigment now, and it's going right in the centre of those little colour bits that I've left there. And I love the way that when you walk around, this little line of sun stippling follows you. So if you walk here, it's there going to the sun. If you walk there, it's there going to the sun. I find that quite fascinating. So I love this little bit here. This is really nice. This is what I really like. So I'm going to leave that like that for one moment. I'm going to get a slightly smaller brush, and I'm going to slightly water down my one or two generations back, and I'm going to just do a few little bits of spray like that go across the water, because it gives a little bit of different marks. It's a bit of texture, it's nice, you know. So like I said, the closer we are to the centre, the whiter this is going to get. So I want to do a few little highlights on this boat here now. because, you know, it's a point of interest there. Actually, this one might be, this brush might be a little bit too thick for this. I'm going to stick with it. So I don't want to get too faffy like I do. Just on the edge of things there, like I said, the sun's just catching those bits. Just there. Same as down there on the water, on the edge of that little buoy. That also is a little buoy there. When I say a buoy, obviously not a small child floating in the water. It's and there's a couple of little bits on the pier there that are also highlighted. Because you know when I said about creating points of interest, this is how you do it. That's my little person there. So these are my lights on the pier. Give them a bulb. That there has morphed itself into a boat because people do put their boats up there when they don't want them in the water over the winter, because we get quite mean storms and tides and things do get a little bit nailed if they're just left. I'm just doing this because there are railings there, but I just don't want to really make them a huge fuss of them. Okay, so we'll just do a little bit of stuff along there with those boats to indicate that there are a couple of boats there, and that's all I want them to do. Like I said, there's also something in the water there. These little marks like this. So I have a really nice brush for this and I'll use that in a minute. I'm just going to do a little bit more on these ones. So I just don't want this to be white as it were yet. So it's still that warm sort of, I don't want to say magnolia because I hate the colour magnolia, but these are nice and light. It's a nice light colour. Everyone's like, why do you hate magnolia? My walls are magnolia. Okay, so that'll do for those. And I'm also, because I've added these boats in, they're not actually there. I'm just going to give them the look of actually being boats by adding some little light bits to them, put a couple of masts in, like that sort of stuff. That just gives them a bit of definition, because you know the light's there, it's going to be hitting them on the top just, rather than anywhere else. And I want this to be an interesting painting. I don't want it to be, oh, just that, there's one boat, that's it. We want to create a little bit of interest. So I'm going to have a look up here. I'm going to step up and see what you guys are seeing through the camera. I'm just going to zoom in without wobbling it too much, if I can, on the water there, and see if you can see the effects of putting the lines there on the little boats. Oh, that's as zoomy in as I can get. Can you see that there? Okay, just going to zoom out to see if I can get back to where I was before I messed around with it. That will do. It shows both the edges as much as possible. So when I'm always looking at this and thinking, right, what else do I need to do? So for me, I'm going to point to it, just here, it's just a little bit hard there. So I'm going to put a little bit of light in the water just to spread the love there a little bit. I'm going to put a few highlights across the top here as well. All right, so I'm going to go back because I don't want it to interfere with my lightest lights there. I'm going back to my my magnolia, and I'm just going to spread this out a little bit, so I don't want it to be too clumpy there. I'm using quite a narrow brush, but I'm not going completely, should we say, rogue on it. Okay, so I just don't want that to be too much of a big solid. So I'm just going to create a few lines that go like this. You can do whatever you want to this, to be fair. It's your painting, you know. What you don't want to do is completely overwork it and it become like a replacement photograph. You still want to have some of those lovely brush marks in it and a variety of sizes, shapes, and that's what's really important with it. I'm also going to put a little bit of this now so it kind of bleeds out from here, because I want it to have a little bit of a halo, because it does have that. Where the sunlight hits that boat, this furthest little zodiac here, it kind of bends into it a little bit, and that's quite interesting for me. And there's a little bit of, the water is actually really, really calm. It's almost like a little bit of a mill pond effect. So the brush, which is really, really good for doing this, what I'm going to do next, I haven't got with me, it's over here, let me go get it. So this brush is called like a sword liner, and I really like them. I use them for watercolour as well, and this is a synthetic brush, and I think it's actually designed for acrylics, but like I said, I do use them for watercolours as well. So dip that one in the water, wet that one up, use a little bit of slightly watered down version of my I'm going to have to call it magnolia now, paint. And what the nice thing about this is you can do your fat lines with the side, and then you can taper it off and do very thin lines like that. And the variety of the line marks is going to add to this hugely. So anywhere where you've got a bit of dead space, you can mix it up by using this brush. So I'm going to add through here slightly, almost like a milky version of the original colour that went underneath the white in my sun, you know, stipply effect there. So that's coming down through here, and this is like where the light's hitting the top of the waves, and those are coming down through here. These also come down quite nicely into this dark space because it can get a little bit lost down here. and the water is kind of, in my mind, flowing this way. These are my directional brush lines with this. And again, this stops it from becoming too static and too artificial. There we go. Nice. I like these brushes. These are my new favourite toys. So I don't think they were hideously expensive, these ones. You can get them from various places. I can't even remember where I got this one from, I'm sorry. But they come out as like special effects brushes or something like that. And that, I believe, is all I really need to do, because I'm quite happy with that. I think that has captured the bits that I really like. Oh, one thing I know I do need to do, actually, before I finish, is add a little touch of some bright colour. Now, my bright colour, she says, I don't know if I've got any functioning bright colour on my, yeah, I have got a little bit of very bright fluoro pink. So when you want to create a little bit of interest and you want someone's eyes to go somewhere in particular, what you can do is just pop a little bit. Now there is always these bright, there are always like, what do you call them? You know, buoys and stuff on the side of the fishing boats to stop them whacking into each other, and the pier, they look like big giant footballs. So those sort of things are always around, so you can always just add a few highlights of that, because, you know, hey, this is an area of interest, there's lots of bits going on there, so we put some of those over there. We don't need them down here because this has got its own interest and there actually aren't any on the zodiacs. I might put some here because, hey, I want people's eyes to go to this bit, because this is another point of interest for me. The boys in the water, I might make one of those pink. By doing that, that all of a sudden sticks out hugely, you know. So it's it's like a little dance across the painting. Put one up there, maybe put something there. Ta-da! That'll do, methinks. All is left to do from yours truly is to sign the painting, which I will do. Ooh, shall I do it also in fluorescent pink? Why not, eh? So now I will give this a couple of days to dry itself properly, and then I will swap out the framing, varnish it, and then it'll go off to the gallery, and hopefully someone will buy it, and it'd be quite nice if one of you guys got it, because you could say I actually saw that being made. This isn't painting, my signature's not painting very well in fluoro, so ooh, there we go. I've got fluoro pinky whitey stuff going down. Okay. There we go. Is that too big? Does that look alright? Looks alright. Oh, I don't know actually. I might redo that signature. Oh, acrylic. Wonderful. You just get rid of it like that. Do it smaller. I'm just going to do it in white, I've decided. It didn't look very clean. That's better. It's a better size as well. There we are, my lovelies. I might just actually, this is a danger zone. This is a danger zone. Is when you start faffing. Put a little bit more white on there. Okay, stop it now, Karen. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. My name's Karen Gilmore. You can please like and subscribe to my channel, Petrol and Paint, and hopefully we will see you in St Ives. There we go. Take care. Bye bye.